We got to get you in the gym. I think that's going to be our next video. Is we're going to take you into my world. And,
I'd love to come. I worked out. Michael trained me for a while.
Well, it's a little different when Mr. Olympia trains.
Troy Kearns, real estate investor, bringing it to you hot and fresh from the Las Vegas studio here at the Troy Kearns channel. We have a very special guest, a celebrity, Jay Cutler.
I always laugh at the celebrity thing.
I mean, it's true. You're a celebrity. You're like, I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest with you. So Jay has known my brother-in-law, Michael, for how long now?
I met since 06, maybe 05 maybe.
So they were training at Gold's Gym. That's how they got to know each other. Jay is a big-time bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia. He won 2006, 2007, skipped 2008, 2009, 2010. So four-time Mr. Olympia.
Yes. I actually lost in 2008. I was second, but we don't count that in.
Yeah,
a lot of second-place finishes, but it was, yeah, I mean, I've been a bodybuilder for over 20 years and started at the age of 18 and won the Olympia at 33 and retired at 40.
Wow. But what's your retirement look like these days?
Busier than when I was competing.
Yeah, you're like everywhere. You're like into social media. You've got like, what do you got? You got 463,000 YouTube subscribers, 3.4 million IG followers, 103,000 TikTok followers. You're everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keeping up with the trends. I mean, at transition, I was a magazine guy, and early on, and then I kind of brought on social media in 2011, 12, I think, when Instagram kind of started, and now I'm working with the transition. I do a lot of Snapchat too, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's and TikTok's newer, but the YouTube has been something I've done since 2008. It seems to be something that really has a lot of interest, especially with the newer generation. And the funny thing about YouTube is, when the younger generation, when I was starting out at 18, I used to watch people work out, and I used to get my knowledge from the magazine, so I had to make those routines come alive. And I feel today's society has so much more benefit because they can just watch. People would rather watch a video. We used to read books, and I remember I picked up my first book at 16 and a local GNC. That was the only supplement shop at the time.
Right.
If you even call that I mean, it was the only place to get supplements. And I picked up a training book. It was a guy named Bob Paris. He was a bodybuilder back in the day, and I learned routines from that, and I started incorporating that at 18 when I joined the gym. And I had kind of a different background where I grew up on a farm, and my brothers were in concrete. So I started working at the age of 11, so I had a pretty good physique.
Just from working on the concrete?
Just working on the concrete. I mean, it's laborsome work. I mean, I grew up in the East Coast, Massachusetts, so for me it was something that I was forced to go to work before school, after school, vacations, weekend, everything that, any free time I had, I was forced to work.
So is that where your work ethic came from?
The work ethic came from that, and I always mention that I kind of hated my brothers and my father because they used to drag me out of bed at 5 in the morning.
I love it. I'm getting goosebumps. I love that stuff.
The thing that people don't understand is, like, when you have a family business, there's no, we work 8 hours a day. I mean, there was 14, 16-hour days. I mean, we would start when the sun was coming up, and we would be working under headlights to finish jobs. It wasn't, we had to finish jobs day to day, so there was no real restrictive labor laws or anything like that. So I was out there pretty much working those hours, and although I was financially rewarded for it because I was paid by the hour, it was a family thing.
So do you like by the hour, or do you like just based on total effort now?
Effort, I think, is probably for sure, by the job.
Right. So I got a couple questions I wanted to get into. So you're from Boston. You moved out to Las Vegas. What brought you out here?
You know, I actually transitioned to California first. I actually had a contract with a guy named Joe Weeder, who was like the godfather of bodybuilding.
Yes, yes. I was watching those magazines.
Yes, Muscle and Fitness, Flex, he owned. And he moved, he had a supplement brand also. So he moved me to California when I was 25. That was 1999. And I moved to Orange County, California.
Right.
Now, most people migrate to Venice Beach because that's where Schwarzenegger made famous with Muscle Beach and all that, Gold's Gym. But I actually wanted to stay away from that riffraff, and I moved down there, settled into a place called Aliso Viejo, which is in Southern California. And
Which county is that? Orange?
Orange County.
Okay.
And about 6 months in, I mean, I started renting a place, and it was really a shock to me because I was renting a place when I left Massachusetts for $400 a month. And then when I moved to Southern Cal, I was paying $1,400 for my rental. So I rented a 6-month apartment, and then I bought my first property in 2000.
So
there.
what got you? So that got you into real estate.
It kind of got me into real estate, but I had a lot of people in my ear, and I had a lot of background. You know, my brothers were getting into real estate at an early age, and I was actually in construction and kind of home development before I left. I had a business there that I walked away from to chase my bodybuilding dream. And I had a guy that worked with me on nutrition that he was kind of an investor. So he told me, like, when I moved out there, listen, you need to buy a property.
Right.
And remember, we were coming out of a somewhat recession a little bit. I mean, 99, the market wasn't super expensive.
I had no idea what's going on back then.
Yeah, so I was able to find my first condo there, and I had won my first pro show and literally put the down payment. Back then, you could put a little less money down on the property, and I bought my first condo in I believe it was about April of 2000.
Wow. So how did the real estate, so we're talking a little bit, we got you in here because we started talking on the phone. You're interested in real estate. We started talking about, like, you obviously make a lot of money. I think people know that. I don't think that's a secret out there because you've got a big supplement company that's going great for you. You got a ton of followers. People look up to you as a bodybuilder. You're like besides Arnold, you're like probably, I mean, I looked at Ronnie Coleman was.
He was I call him a nemesis, even though we were close friends.
Right.
But he was a guy I battled. I was second to him 4 times before I won. And it was like 10 years stint that we were battling back and forth.
Right.
And, you know, for me, you know, winning the Mr. Olympia is the biggest title you can win. But, you know, to revert back, like, I was in California, bought that first property, but it's kind of funny because I had a great accountant at the time. He was in Newport. And I had friends that moved to Las Vegas.
Right.
And I had been to Vegas in 98, and I never imagined moving out here.
Right.
And we took a day trip sometime in 2000, like end of 2001. 9/11 happened, and that was in September. And then we took a trip like shortly after to Las Vegas, and I said, hey, let me look at some properties out here, and everything was discounted down. And I went to my accountant and I said, hey, what do you think about Las Vegas? He says, go. He said, go. Because he was kind of a financial advisor. This was a guy I tried to work with for years.
Like, go, like, move here?
He said, because I said, hey, you know, I'm looking, because I started looking in Temecula. I don't know if you know where that is.
By San Diego.
Yeah, so I started looking at properties there because Orange County was starting to rise up. But, you know, I had this condo, and I wanted to get a bigger home. And, you know, then I went to Vegas, and I saw, wow, what I could get for Vegas comparable to Temecula was ridiculous. So I transitioned to Las Vegas within 6 months.
So you moved out here to train, to buy property?
I actually moved to literally buy the real estate.
So that's what brought you out to Vegas?
That's what brought me here, which the perception is that the Olympia was held at Mandalay Bay every year. It's moved here in 99, so I was competing at the Olympia every year, and I was second place by this time, you know, battling Ronnie Coleman.
Right.
And I came to Vegas, and I remember the first year I moved here, I bought 7 homes.
7 homes?
7 homes the first year.
So how'd you buy them? Did you buy like 20% down?
No, it was 5% down. I mean, became a flipper pretty much.
You became a flipper.
Because I was working with a builder,
right?
Jim Rhodes, who was a big builder
yes,
here.
I know Jim.
Yeah, and I was actually, buying properties, and by the time those homes were done, the values had increased so much you couldn't hold inventory. So I was actually just turning every show that I won, I bought a piece of property.
So were you speculating? Like you were speculating like they would go up?
Oh yeah, it was you couldn't build them fast enough.
So did you lose money or did you make money?
I made a lot of money, and I sold most of them by 2004, as you know.
So you were one of the guys who actually made money because a lot of guys got crushed.
No, see, I didn't hold them. That was the main thing. I did hold 2 rental properties, and I kept those for some time, but I did sell most of the rentals by 2004 also, because I was able to get into some commercial land property, real estate, which gave me, I had to gather some more capital because I wasn't as established back then.
Do you own any investment properties right now?
I don't own investment like residential stuff.
But you have some commercial stuff.
Yes, I have some commercial property.
What do you got commercial?
I do more like land deals. So I work with different funds.
Okay.
I have a bunch of guys that get together and we buy some land. And
So
we
like
did a Palm Springs project 2 years ago. And then, now, I'm always looking at different property.
So one thing that we talked about, I know it's important to you, so I want to get there, is as you know, when you make a lot of income, you pay a lot of taxes. I'm sure you can agree, right?
Yes.
So real estate is a total hedge.
Yeah, it's a deduction, yeah.
Right, that depreciation. Yeah. So like, why aren't you buying more properties?
Because I'm not as diverse in the areas where we talked about this when I asked you about where you're purchasing your property.
Right.
As you know, Vegas is really expensive, right?
Right.
I mean, I know people are looking towards Pahrump. I'm looking out that way, and I mean, it seems like people are migrating here and kind of flourishing outside the area now.
Yeah, it's becoming California.
Yeah.
So, but like, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, you could do like an SBA loan, right, which is like 10% down out of your business. You could open up a gym upstairs, a supplement store downstairs. I wanted to get into like how that looks like for real estate. So if you were to buy like a property on, let's say you bought the old City Athletic, the old City Club, right?
The building,
down. Yeah. You could buy that, right, like as an SBA loan, put 10% down. Then you could take a 30% paper loss on paper as depreciation against that property. So let's say you bought a property that was 10 million bucks. You put down $1 million. You then would get a write-off $3 million as a paper loss against your federal income. And during the CARES Act, you can actually take that and go backwards. So meaning the last 5 years of income that you bought or that you made, you can recapture all of that. So like this year or last year, I went and got all the taxes I paid in the last 5 years back by just buying real estate.
And where did you buy that real estate?
I buy it all over the place. I bought stuff here. Commercial, I'm still buying here. I'm just not buying residential. I bought properties in Kansas City, Mississippi, Philadelphia, Washington State, Louisiana. But mainly what I'm talking about for here, like for you, is because the bigger property that you buy, because I'm guessing, I don't even know what your income, nor am I going to speculate or ask, but the bigger property you buy or the more expensive property that you buy, you can like, so I'll give you an example. I own this building that we're in right now. I bought this with an SBA loan, okay? That means that I have to occupy 51% of the building. So I occupied at that time, I bought it in 2013. So we're not meeting the thing right now. But when I bought it, we occupied the top floor here, or at least we, planned on it, and then we moved out. And then we refied, but that allowed us to come into this building for 10% down and then refi it and then buy another one with an SBA loan.
So do you have leased out spaces in this building?
The whole thing is leased out.
Okay.
100% occupied.
Even through all this?
Even through all this.
Nice.
Yeah, the big office is going to get crushed, but small office does fine. Especially like anything medical or anything like that. But when you get into real estate, with the cost segregation, the other tax strategy that I had for you, do you have a nonprofit?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, this is something that you definitely...
We spoke about it. My attorney and I discussed it a couple times.
Yeah, 501(c). So you could actually buy a property. And let's say, I know you like dogs because we both have... I have a Vizsla.
Yeah.
I have a dog named Capone, by the way.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Is it Yorkie or...
he's an Italian Mastiff.
Okay.
Cane Corso. Did you ever meet Michael's old dog?
I don't know if I ever did.
His name was Corleone.
No, I never met him.
Yeah, so it's like 150. It's like a dog version of you. I mean, it's like all muscle. It's the biggest dog.
How old is the dog?
The dog is 3 years old.
Okay.
I actually bought it when it had, or I bought it and then it got parvo. Are you familiar with parvo?
No.
So parvo's like, to a dog, is like a death sentence. They die. It's like where they, when the poop or whatever gets bacteria, some other dog poops and they eat it or whatever, and then if they get it, they're gonna die. So this, when I took my dog to the vet when it had it, they said he's got a 50% chance of dying, and it's $5,000. So I said, how much is the medicine? It's $500. I said, give me the medicine. I'll take him home. I saved him. It worked out. The dog's I own a tow yard here in town. The dog is down at the tow yard. Every time he sees me, he pisses himself because he remembers. You know, the bond with the dog is, I'm sure you can agree, dogs are better than humans, right? So just to kind of get back on topic though about real estate, like when I look at like guys that make a massive amount of income, and I'm like, you have to buy real estate because any money you pay in taxes could be completely gone.
Yeah, offset, yeah.
And so when I talk about the 501(c), which is a tax, basically a nonprofit, you can own real estate. Like let's say you bought a property in Kansas City, where I buy them for $50,000, and then I was going with the dog thing was charity. Let's say you started a charity for like rescue dogs. You could have all the profits from your real estate go to that, and then by you donating that house to your charity, you get 100% deduction from Jay Cutler donating it to Jay Cutler's nonprofit. You get 100% tax credit for donating that.
Wow.
So, I mean, that obviously check with your CPA. I'm going to say that, but that's the big thing like that you can do to really get your taxes down to almost nothing.
So my question is though, when you started purchasing real estate, you started residential or you started with commercial or both?
Residential. When I bought this building, I didn't even know what I was doing. Like I totally bought it and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, you know, but I'm like, I think I can't lose here.
And how do you make the determination on what you're going to purchase, whether it's, I know you're buying in Kansas City, like you got out of residential in Las Vegas. Why?
I got out too early. The main thing was I started buying so I was an REO broker, so I sold for all the banks. So I saw it like.
So you learned about the business that way.
100%.
Okay.
Like I sold 2,000 houses in like 3 years. So I learned how to negotiate from them, and I learned how to buy properties from them. But I saw them; they were like $19,000, and I was like, "How do you lose here?" I mean, these houses were built they weren't even built that much in 1947.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how I make my determination. But in terms of like going into a new city, it's just like a feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, but you have to travel there. I know you were on a plane last time we spoke. And
Yeah.
So you visit these areas. Do you view anything, or you just usually look online?
I go to every property right now. Everything I buy.
And what seems to be the hottest areas right now?
Well, everything's hot. Every single area right now is
certain pieces of each.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you bought this place in 2013. This was your first commercial property?
First commercial property.
And at the time, was it leased out? Were the units leased?
So there was this tenant down here. I had I think 2 tenants up.
How many units are there in this building?
Oh my gosh. Right now I've divided it. I think there's a total like 9.
Oh, so you kind of remodeled it now.
Yeah. So when I bought it, there was a lawyer downstairs who's still there. There was a real estate brokerage there who's still there. There was a tax guy who's still there, and there was another internet guy who's not there anymore. So, go ahead.
But were you going to use this for like your office?
Right. So SBA says that 51% of it needs to be used for your office.
Okay.
So the whole building on the top floor was going to be used for my office.
And what your business was the real estate?
Real estate.
Do this real estate.
Right.
Okay.
Real estate management. And then what we did is we ended up filling all those spaces that were empty. Like the downstairs had a big vacancy. It hadn't been open for like 5 years. So we rented that out to a mortgage company that's been there. They're paying like $5,000 a month. And then we got the suite we're in, rented out, and then we just turned this into a studio recently, and then we're obviously paying ourselves a rent. Because I don't know if you know how commercial property is valued. Do you know? So with a residential property, it's basically, whatever somebody's going to pay for it. But with commercial property, it's based off the NOI, the net operating income. And then what you do is you take what cap rates, which is the comp, and you take that cap rate and you do a math equation with that and your cash flow, and then you determine what the value of your building is. So for give you an example, I bought this for 1.25. The guy across the street, these are all the same. You saw there's 6 buildings.
Yeah,
he bought his for the same price. He's got his for sale right now for 3.1. So not only does it cash flow, but it's gone up in value a ton.
Why is he selling it though?
He moved. He lives out of state, and like he had he had an insurance business in there, a big insurance business. He sold his insurance business, so he's gonna sell the building too.
I know. Is there the perception is that commercial property is going to tank right now?
I'll tell you where the opportunities are. So, have you been traveling through the pandemic?
I have, yeah, some, yeah.
Have you stayed in any hotels?
Yeah.
Are they all empty?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Right. So they're all going to tank. So when they tank, though not all of them obviously, but a lot of them are not going to survive. Okay. So those are your next apartment buildings. Those are going to get turned into apartment buildings because we have no affordable housing, like zero. That's the biggest problem with Vegas right now. That's what. I mean, have you been around lately? You see how many homeless people we got? We're turning into Los Angeles.
I mean, I traveled to LA. I was in Huntington Beach last week. And it seems like, I get a lot of listings there. I mean, I'm a huge fan of California. I mean, I came from there. My ideal is to live in California.
You want to go back?
I want to go back. And people think I'm a little crazy, but I'll keep my residency in Las Vegas, but I want to have secondary there. And I just think the real estate climbs higher there, a lot easier than Vegas. And that's why I kind of got away from the residential, because I feel that it only had, I thought my perception when I kind of started buying is there was only so much revenue in Las Vegas. Like, people worked strip jobs, a lot of them made cash.
Right.
So they weren't able to get finance for the high-end properties. They had that certain range of residential you could purchase, and then anything over that. But it seems like now California is moving to Vegas, so the prices are driving it up, which is inflated. But is that going to last?
Yeah, I mean, I would tell you, if I was you and you're looking to get back into real estate investing, you just need to scratch residential. Mm-hmm. Unless you're going to buy like a property in California, turn it into an Airbnb. I mean, I don't even know if you want to do that, but
the biggest thing that scares me, and I mentioned why I got out of buying properties and flipping, because it was time consuming, right?
Right.
Showing up, picking out, just and managing. That was the main thing. Is I tried to self-manage it back then. I didn't know what I was doing as much. So.
That's the best way to do it, though. That's what I do. I self-manage all my properties, even the ones in Kansas City.
Yeah, but it's time. That's your full-time job, right?
Right.
It was hard for me because I was booked every week traveling the road.
Right.
I was training for competitions, and I don't know if you know how training for shows, you just don't have that mindset to be able to focus on a lot of things other than the end goal, which
the last show I was in, I didn't do well.
Yeah.
I didn't even show up.
So it's for me, I have my eyes out there, but it's good to talk to someone that knows the markets a little better. And I've heard this thing about the hotels. I have a friend the guy I told you that kind of backed me up on buying the property, get into it. He's a big, he does a lot of apartments. He has 77 different apartments.
Yeah, you need to be buying all big time stuff because A, it gives you the depreciation loss, B, it gives you cash flow, and C, you don't have to manage it. Mm-hmm. That's what you need to be doing. Because if you buy residential properties, you're just going to have headaches.
Yeah.
Unless they're second homes that you Airbnb and you have somebody on your staff manage them for you, then you...
I don't have a staff that manages the real estate portfolio, though. That's the issue.
But you just need a property manager. Like I bought a 42 unit in Mississippi. I have a property manager. I've never even set foot in the... I've been there. I say that, but I never go there. It's completely managed. I make money. In the first year, it made no money. But I got cost segregation, so all my income taxes I got back. So it was like I made $300,000 that year. So you got to look at that too.
And how long did it take you before you learned this process?
Well,
you came into it. You were working with the banks, right?
Right.
So didn't you know this? Like, what were you buying this? What was your thought process when you bought your first commercial property?
Cheap. So what I did, literally, you're gonna love this. So I literally sorted on the MLS by price. Okay, and I went with
And you had to deposit money.
No, so I was selling so many houses for the banks. So I actually had 2 properties that I bought when I lived in Seattle here, because I'm from Seattle.
Okay.
So I bought like a property at those condo. I don't know if you know where Michael lives. The condos that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I bought one of those condos over there. I bought one up there on speculation. They went down to the. I held on to them. So they went down I think I bought the condo for $184,000, and everybody, I was living in it when I moved here, and everybody, the whole condo left because they all were foreclosed on.
Yeah.
And they were all selling for like $35,000. So in terms of buying these properties here, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So my whole real estate career has been trial and error, much like everything else.
I think everything is like that.
Yeah, everything in life is like that. It's like until you get it figured out. But now I feel like I've got it figured out a little bit. And now it's taking it to, so the reason I started the YouTube channel is my next goal is to start a hedge fund or take a REIT public, right? And so I figured the best way to do that is get massive amounts of viewers so you can raise capital and then show them what you do, right? And so that's my end game, right? Or at least that's my goal is to get a jet. That's the only goal I have. Nobody likes traveling commercial, do you?
You know what? I don't mind it so much. I've done it so much. I don't like traveling in general. So even if I had a jet or didn't, I don't think I just like being in Las Vegas, if that makes sense, or like on the ground somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm a very routine person, and that stems from my upbringing to my bodybuilding to now the lifestyle that I live, that I've retired, and I enjoy time at home. I mean.
Can we talk about that? Like, you have to be I was thinking about this and I got off track, but you've got to be one of the most disciplined guys there are out there to get to where you're at. I mean, you do not, what do you weigh right now?
About 230.
And when you won the Mr. Olympia in 2006, 7,
I was
9,
about 270, but I came down from like 300 pounds. So this would be considered like the off season. But for me, I do have a structure, and unfortunately, it's kind of thrown off track, especially with travel. As you know, it's difficult. We just mentioned that.
Yeah.
I think, you said, I want a jet. It's the convenience, right? I mean, you want to be able to get up and go when you want, not have to deal with I
don't want to go to TSA. I just want to get on.
But we all have goals on what
Right.
really drives us, right? And if you said, well, Jay, you retired, you won the biggest titles, and you're successful. Obviously, I have a supplement company, but I look at my life value now as time.
Totally.
Meaning, like, a lot of things that I put on the side, I wasn't able to do because of the restrictions of what I used to ride ATVs, I ride motorcycles, I loved downhill skiing.
I love that stuff, yeah.
And those kind of things I had to stop doing because of my contracts in the time when I was a bodybuilder. And life has gotten so busy that I haven't had the opportunity to necessarily go back to those things. But as I'm closer to 50 than 40,
right.
Now I look at, okay, what is the most important thing in your life? And, I was driven by, fame and success and financial reward, but time is so important to me now to be able to do certain things. Like, I spent a week in California last week, and I was like, man, this is why I
work as hard as you.
Yes, because I was able to do that. Although I was working while I was there, I was visiting accounts and doing social media, which is a full-time job, as you know.
Yeah.
It just made me realize. I sat back and I'm like, man, this is why I do this.
So you're gonna solve the fountain of youth problem next?
I don't know. I got to figure it out. I mean, I feel 25. Like as I get older, and that's the amazing thing is I never thought, when I was younger and pursuing the whole bodybuilding dream and chasing, the building the empire, I never imagined I'd get to that age where I would start thinking about less of like the success factor and say I want to enjoy it, right?
That's awesome to hear. I actually appreciate that. I have 2 7-year-olds right now, and that's really, like, my wife's like, you're obsessed with what you're doing, and I'm like, have to constantly remind myself that my kids are not going to be 7 forever, and I have to make sure that I spend time with them and that I take, like, I'm realizing my own mortality. I mean, we could get hit by a bus walking across the street, and it's, no matter how much money you got, no matter how many things you did, if you didn't enjoy your life, then what the hell is the point?
Yeah, I mean, but what's your threshold? Like, what is your? I mean, peaked out as far as properties you want to purchase at this time? Or are you still looking? Or
I honestly have a really ambitious goal within the next year and a half to buy 1,000 properties. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I think this channel is going to be the way. I think I'm going to do a lot of partnerships with people because, like you said, a lot of people don't like to do them. And when I tend to buy a property, I'll buy it for like 50% of the value. The 70 properties I bought in Kansas City, like 90% of them I renovated. So, and they're all worth like double what I paid for them and what I've got into them.
but you don't want to sell them.
No, because I bought them all because they're 1031
Yeah,
exchanges.
Yeah, so the money's just floating. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you gotta. I don't have that. I don't have a cash flow problem. I don't have a real estate problem. I just want to continue to buy more and more and more. And then how? And then the answer is, when is it enough, right? Well, I get the answer. The answer is when I have a jet, and then hopefully it's enough, right? But I wanted to ask you a personal question that probably a lot of. I mean, my demo is males 25 to 45.
Same. Yeah.
Same. So one of my biggest things that I've struggled with is staying in shape. I mean, I do a lot of hiking. I do the Calico Basin up there all the time. I do that. It's like my circuit. I've been in the gym. I'm always getting injured. Right now, I've got a pinched nerve. I had ankle surgery over here. I broke a couple ribs. Like everything keeps going. What would you recommend? Because I'm not going to be the hardcore guy like you. I'm not going to watch every single thing that goes into my body because that's where you make your money. But what would you recommend, like for just people, generally people who want to get in better health? What's the best way to start?
You know what's kind of funny is any kind of exercise, and listen, 20 years ago, it was like people lifted weights. There's a lot more other activities now and other things. I mean, people box, they do things that they might not have done back then, and a lot of functional training, right? CrossFit.
Right.
The trainers, as you see, I don't know if you watch anything like online, but there's always new exercise. You should see, even like walking the old Gold's Gym yesterday, it's EOS Fitness now.
Yeah.
And I watch some of the root exercise that the people do, and I'm like, man, like, this has changed so much in 20 years because like we used to bench press, and now these kids take the dumbbells, they hold them together and they press like this. Right. Like that didn't exist. But any kind of functional training, but you know, the amazing thing is if you took 10 minutes and just, even if you like took your lunch break and you walked around here for 10 minutes, that's the start. 30 minutes a day is really what I suggest for anyone with exercise. And you can tell me, Jay, I'm too busy, because that's all our excuse,
Everybody's
right?
got that, yeah.
But you just got to find 30 minutes. And that 30 minutes, I usually take 30 minutes in the morning when I wake up to have clarity in my mind. It's almost like meditation. So I walk around my neighborhood. Right. We live in Las Vegas. We live in the best place in the world, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I walk around, and obviously it's going to get a little hotter, so I'll do that early in the morning. And I use that time as meditation. And I think about, okay, this is what I'm going to do today. I try not to answer emails as I'm walking or whatever, but I prepare myself for the mental, because everything is mental, on how I'm going to go about my day. But that's how I kickstart. And they say working out on an empty stomach, you know, you're going to tap into more body fat storages. But any kind of functional exercise, and that could be just walking. And that's what people don't understand. They're like, I don't have cardio equipment. I don't have weights. You don't need it. All you got to do is walk. I mean, around your neighborhood, or, you know, even if you do have a piece of cardio at home, whether it's a bike or a treadmill or stair mill, whatever it is, you know, you have to find that. You don't have to lift weights.
Can we talk about diet?
Of course.
Because so I do a lot of the things that you're talking about, but my problem is portion control. So one of the things that I just implemented is like, I won't eat after 8, because that was like something that was like that's where I was getting more.
You read that, but the truth is, if you're a late night person, that doesn't, you know, especially if you work out later, that's not something that I suggest. Like, your clock should run, depending on, I don't know if you fall asleep at 10 o'clock or whatever, but some people stay up till 2 in the morning. I mean, you shouldn't cut your food 8 o'clock if you're staying up super late. The main thing is you should have a good breakfast, a good meal before and after workout, if you work out, but you should have at least 3 or 4 portionate meals a day, instead of just gorging yourself with 1 or 2 meals. And it has to be healthy food, like protein, carbohydrates, meaning like, you know, I eat a lot of chicken breast. I do have white rice. I have green vegetables. I have like turkey, fish. You know, red meat I limit a little bit at this point, although it was like 4 times a day when I was trying
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
bigger, because it will get you, there's natural creatine in red meat, so it gives you a lot of that. But the diet is 80% of staying in shape. Someone like you doesn't need to work out if you're following the right diet program.
So you'd say like just limiting the carbs, limiting your sugar.
Sugar is the #1 killer.
Okay.
Sugar's the #1 for heart disease too. I mean, that
So I gotta
causes plaque. If you're eating sugar, you should cut it immediately out of your diet, as much as possible. Is that difficult to do? That's my question.
I think it probably for me it is because I like ice cream.
Yeah, I mean, you got to live a little bit too, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could cut it out. I see what you're saying, and then if you cut 90% of it out, and then you save the 10% for when you do something. You did bring up something that was very important, I thought, to kind of digress a little bit down the rabbit hole. You said you like to start your mornings with meditation, and I do too. And I just started picking up yoga on YouTube, and I have found that because you incorporate the breathing with that it's just like a totally different, like I had never been able to touch my toes my whole life. And now I'm 43 and I can touch my toes.
It's so funny. I just stopped someone. We were just in the gym the other day, and I said, you know, we were talking. He was a physical therapist, and he stopped me and he said, you know, hey, how'd you stay so healthy where some of these other guys are really beat up? You know, my guy competed against Ronnie Coleman. You know, he has a lot of back problems and whatever
Big
now.
time, yeah.
And I said, most people my age can't bend and touch their toes, and I bent over and touched my toes, you know. And I know so many people at my age that can't do that. And that's the first, you should stretch every single day. Like I mentioned, I do that cardio, but I have a lot of stretching that goes on after that. So I have a stretch machine, so it actually cranks and spreads your legs. And I do all sorts of stretching, but I did a lot of tissue work when I was training. But stretching is as important as you get older, especially when you're flying a lot, sitting down a lot, sitting in front of a computer. You have to stay mobile.
Mobility, yeah. So I follow these guys. Kind of one of the things that got me into YouTube. I'm like a huge user of it, right? So I follow these people who have like this guy Tom Merrick has a mobility stretching. Some of these yoga gals. But you're right. It's like because it brings the oxygen into your blood when you stretch or into your muscle tissue. Right?
What was your tightest area you think that you like had to overcome?
For stretching?
Yeah. Lower back or
No, probably in here. All the
calves
way.
and hamstrings?
Yeah, all the way in there. I'm pretty tight. My legs.
Can you touch your toes now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can get almost my fist down.
That's great.
So I'm gonna try to get my elbows down.
And how often do you have to do yoga? How often do you do it?
You know, honestly, I do it maybe 3 days a week, and I do, or sometimes more if I'm like anxious. If I feel anxious, I'll do yoga because it makes me feel better. But I use Sarah Beth Yoga on YouTube. I use this other guy called Breathe and Flow on YouTube, and it's crazy. It just takes it. What I find is because like when you try to meditate with the phone, as you know, it's like some bad news comes in or something that takes you off track. What I find is I'll just put that thing in there, put it on airplane mode, play it, and I'll set it up. If I feel like I'm doing a lot, I'll set it up for like 20 minutes. And then I just go through, do the exercise. And the first, you know, as you know with working out or anything, the first, 10 sessions are a little bit defeating because you can't do much of it. But as you start to go, you get more flexible. You realize that the stretch comes from the breathing. And if you focus on the breath, you can take that stretch a lot further than you can. And so for me, I mean, I'm speaking to I'm giving you advice.
No, it's out of my wheelhouse though,
Yeah.
because I did Pilates, I did kettlebell training. I never did yoga. It's one of the things I have always been interested in.
I will totally suggest checking out Sarah Beth Yoga on YouTube. They have like a 5-minute nightly mobility to get yourself. But as you say, the older we get, it's all about mobility. If I can't like chase my kids down and like I tear a hamstring doing it,
yeah.
I'm screwed. And I really felt it because since, you hear about people when they turn 40, everything starts falling apart.
Yeah.
I'm that guy. Like broken ribs, broken finger, had surgery on my ankle over here. So I really
All after 40.
like
All after 40 or no?
all after 40.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it was because I was so tight. Like this thing just kept snapping because it was so tight. And now, having retrained it, nothing's happening.
Well, listen, I know I came in here, we talked about this, but I want to learn more about, how it's being done. That's really, it's a learning process. I mean, I'm at that point, like I mentioned, I have time now, so it's a little more about the learning processes. And I don't know about, like, when you mentioned Kansas City, I didn't know. I thought you were buying most of the stuff here when Michael used to mention it to me. So when you branched off to do that, I mean, what was the first year you went to Kansas City?
Last year, well, 19. So what happened was, this is going to be funny. So I was looking for a new market. I bought 70 houses in Mississippi, and I kind of felt like I was a little exposed. And so I looked at going into Philadelphia. I bought one house out there, and that was a great market. I bought that house for $32,000, and it's worth like $160 now, and that was only like 4 years ago. So I knew that I was right on the market. But what happened, why I identified Kansas City, is I went to Indianapolis. That market I could tell had already run. Once I went there, I could tell, meaning like it had already gone up in value. And so I'm watching Monday Night Football against Patrick Mahomes and against the Colts, and I'm looking at my wife, and I'm going, I know you think I'm crazy, because I was imbibing that night a little bit, and I said, but Kansas City is where I'm going to buy real estate next. And she's like, what are you talking, just from watching a football game. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, I know I'm right. I said, trust me. And so the next morning I went and did the research, and I'm like, okay, we're booking a trip out there. We went out there for a week during Thanksgiving of 2019, and I looked at like 50 houses or something on that for my whole week there. And I bought a couple. And I'm like, this is real estate heaven, because I don't know if you've ever been to Kansas City.
No, I don't know if I've been in the deep part, maybe traveling through, but
I've never heard about the Midwest at all. It's like real estate heaven. The houses there never went like we do on the West Coast, up and down. They stayed steady. But the houses that I'm buying for like 40 or 50 right now, the people there think I'm crazy, because they were selling for like 10 grand a couple years ago. And I'm like, well, the numbers make sense. So to answer your question, how I was looking for a market to go all in, because I wanted to sell. I felt Vegas, I still had some single families here, and I felt Vegas was really at the top, and I still do. And so I felt like, if I can 1031 these. So the way I looked at it is like, I'll give you an example. I had a property I bought for like 19 grand out here. I was getting $800 a month for it. Great return on 19 grand, right? But it's now worth 200. So 800 on 200 is not that great.
yeah.
So I would buy 5 houses now with that 200,000 through. Do you know what a 1031
Yeah, of
exchange?
course, yeah. I
Okay.
used to do it, yeah.
Yeah. So now
So did you sell the 200 to buy the?
Yeah. So that's how I bought all those houses. I
Okay.
just sold houses. So I take one, buy 5. So I multiplied my income 5 times.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So and when I looked at Kansas City, that was the market that I felt, it's a good market because the city has invested a ton of money. They're trying to make it come back. B, I don't know if this makes a lot of sense, but I felt like because they won the Super Bowl and because they hired this superstar, that a lot more eyeballs were going to be on this city, and they were going to see what I saw, and they're going to start investing there, and that's what's happened. So I'm super happy that you came in here. I'm real glad that you made yourself available to us. I know that you've got a massive amount of influence to tons of people, and for our audience as well. I want to thank you for taking the time, for being so available, for just being so honest, and thank you for just sharing your information. And I want to tell everybody out there, if you have not talked about or have not seen his supplements, can you talk a little bit about your supplements?
Yeah, I have a product line called Cutler Nutrition. Usually, best place to look at is jaycutler.com. All my stuff is Jay Cutler, the original Jay Cutler, not the football player.
Yes.
So I have a sports nutrition line that, I cater to, athletes, all types. I do some health products in there, like probiotics and digestive enzymes, but more pre-workouts, proteins. It's exciting. I've been working on it now for just over 2 years, and it's available at jaycutler.com.
JayCutler.com. You can buy your supplements. What do I need to buy?
We'll get you started on our protein and maybe some aminos. That would be beneficial for you for recovery and keeping your protein levels high enough. We got to get you in the gym. I think that's going to be our next video. Is we're going to take you into my world. And,
I'd love to come. I worked out. Michael trained me for a while.
Well, it's a little different when Mr. Olympia trains.
It might be, man. You're gonna torture me.
So
that's great. Well, I appreciate you coming in. Okay. All right. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you click the link below. Hit our notifications. We're gonna be bringing new videos to you every day, and I'm gonna be working out with Mr. Olympia. I'm scared.
that's the next video. You just said it. So
We're in.
we're in the gym. Next workout is going to be we're going to put you through the ringer.
I'm in. 100%. When you want to do it?
We'll make a plan on it.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Appreciate it. All right, so we're wrapping up with Jay Cutler, Mr. Olympia, 4-time, a celebrity. He graced us with his presence today, was totally humble. The next video we're gonna do is me in the gym with Mr. Olympia. I don't know what that's gonna look like, but you're definitely gonna wanna tune in.